Thank you for joining us for AHA, a human among humans. We are the humans tonight. So I was saying, my name is Michael Koren. I was saying in the first half hour before this show, how Abram, being in an extremely dysfunctional family, was so lost, confused, broken, that light came through him. We're all made by the sun and the galaxy that the sun is in, and even more. And when we're broken and don't have our usual defenses, who knows what could come in? Only the sun and the stars and the galaxies know. So he hears this call and it feels beautiful coming through, blessing, loving, caring, guiding. And he follows it, goes to Canaan, and maybe will focus on his children. His first child, since he and his wife, Sarai, are still childless. And even though Abram hears in the visions, sees and hears in the vision, you will have a child coming out of your center, sometimes translated as bowels or groin. Of your body, a child will come. And he goes back to his tent with Sarai, and maybe she feels threatened by the power in Abram and says, I will give you my maidservant or my slave, Hagar. She can make a baby for us. And so Abram doesn't say a word. Doesn't say, I just heard from that power coming through me that I can father a child from my body, from my center. No, he just says, okay. And very clearly, the Hebrew Bible doesn't mince words. It says Abram goes into Hagar, and she conceives and is pregnant, looks at Sarai haughtily. I have a child, you don't. And Sarai, of course, finds this unbearable, complains to Abram. And Abram, maybe Sarai is just too strong for him, says, okay, I put Hagar in your hands. Do to Hagar what you think is right. And Sarai, after feeling the unbearable stare of Hagar, starts hitting the pregnant Hagar with Abram's son or child. And Hagar wisely flees. This is too much to bear, even though she has a child. And flees to an oasis, and a messenger from the divine sees her at the well and says, where have you come from? Hagar knows her name. Where are you going? I like to think that Abram sent the messenger. The messenger knew Hagar's name. In the Hebrew Bible, humans like us can all be messengers of the divine. And the messenger gives her some wise advice, hard advice. Go back submit to your mistress, because you're going to have a very powerful son who turns into the father of all the Arabs, Ishmael, which means God hears, since Hagar experienced God hearing her cries. And she goes back, and then that is more submissive to Sarai, and she has Ishmael. Still no son for Sarai. Three strangers come in the desert to visit Abram and Sarai. And Abram, very kind to strangers, says, stay for a while, I'll wash your feet, and then I'll go prepare a calf. And he gives Sarai his first command to her in the whole story: make bread cakes for these strangers. And after going and killing the calf and having it dressed with yogurt, then it was okay to have milk with meat for the first June. And the strangers eat the calf and the milk. There's no mention of the bread cakes. Again, our subtle author, maybe Sarai wasn't, not maybe, apparently she didn't make bread cakes. And maybe there was something else she was making, a bun in her oven. Because Abram says, where's my wife? And they know her name. Sarai's in the tent. And one of the messengers is standing, this is very choreographed scene, rare for the Bible, with his back to the tent, the entrance to the tent where Sarai is. And the stranger says, Sarai is going to have a child in another year. How does he know? And Sarai laughs, maybe for embarrassment or whatever. And the stranger hears says, don't laugh. I can do, nothing's impossible for the divine or for Yahweh. And it could be making love with this goddess, this priestess's daughter. The stranger does have a divine experience, being maybe feeling one with the divine and one with Yahweh. Well, we're still not sure who's going to be the father of Sarai's child. Abram hears Sarai is going to have a son. Doesn't say he'll be the father. Again from divinity. Divinity this time is called of all things El Shaddai in chapter 17 of Genesis, the beginning. And Shad means a woman's breast. And Shaddai means my. And divinity seems to come from the power of a woman's breast. El means power, as well as divine. And we're given this incredible revelation in the story that divinity has many names. Elohim, which means the community. Yahweh, which can mean I am who I am, and I'm becoming who I'm becoming, which is every moment. It both is and is growing, a growing divinity. Well, here it's El Shaddai, who also can be called Elohim or Yahweh. And Abram is told, your new name is Abraham. You must be circumcised, and all the men. Feels like this powerful power of my female breast is keeping men in pain, cutting men down to size, cutting off their foreskin. And Abram is obedient, and he's told that Sarai, whose new name is now Sarah, as I said, which means Sarai means my princess, Sarah means just princess. Sarah's a princess in her own right, belongs to no one. And Abram is again told, Abraham now, she's going to have a son. It doesn't say it's his son, just a son for you. Well, Abraham now gives Sarah away to another king when they go traveling. He had done it before when they traveled into Egypt. He says to her, say, you're my sister. I don't want men to kill you because you're so beautiful and take you away from me. Ages, by the way, although in the Hebrew Bible it says Sarah's 90. There's 2 harvests at least every year in the Middle East. And so if the years meant harvest, Sarai was around 45 and still obviously extremely beautiful. Another king takes her, Abimelech. Pharaoh took her the first time. And about less than a year later, it says in the Bible, Yahweh does to Sarah what he promised. Remember back at the tents. And Sarah conceives a child. She calls it laughter. He who laughs. Remember when she laughed when she was in the tent. And it seems the Bible is really, really clear. We don't know who the father is. It could have been Abimelech, could have been one of the strangers. It wants us to question this. We know that Ishmael is Abram's son. But he then hears that Sarah's going to have afterwards a son, he hears, and her son will be blessed. Maybe both. Well, it's this family saga. It might make our dysfunctional families look like Mary Poppins. When Isaac is weaned from Sarah's breast, Ishmael and Isaac are playing together, and Sarah does not want the 2 boys to share the inheritance, and tells Abram to throw out Ishmael yet again. This time, first time he was in womb, and now he's a young boy. And Abraham prays, and he's told, what every wife at times might want her husband to hear, do what Sarah tells you. And Abraham again throws out, vanishes into the wilderness, Hagar and Ishmael, giving Hagar only a jug of water and a loaf of bread. And they again go into the wilderness. Maybe the jug of water and loaf of bread are a sign that, don't worry, you won't need more than this. And again the messenger meets them. And again they find water. And they survive and thrive. Well, Abraham is herding his sheep, and there's a fight between Abimelech, remember the king Abraham gave Sarah to, and Abraham's herders. And when there's a fight, it's often you can often remember all the grievances you have in the person you're fighting with. And Abraham could wonder, he had given Sarah to Abimelech. Maybe Abimelech's the father of Isaac. Because after the fight, Abimelech says, when they make up, Abimelech says, let's swear to treat each other's progeny well. And that might be too much for Abraham to hear. The boy that's his, he knows is his for sure. Ishmael is gone thanks to Sarah and Isaac. And at night, he again hears a voice, Abraham, Abraham. And the Hebrew is na, the next word, which really often means please. Most people translate it as now. But it could be the voice and Abraham are getting more familiar, working more together. And this voice, this spirit, this divine spirit asks Abraham, please take your son, your only son. And of course it's not Abraham's only son. He again must question, what kind of voice is he hearing? Why only son when it isn't? Almost rubs it in. Painful. But maybe now it is his only son. And offer him up as a sacrifice. On a mountain I'll show you. Just like go to the land I'll show you. Now, to what degree is Abraham's anger, fury, hatred influencing the voice he hears? Why wouldn't some part of him be so furious at Sarah and Isaac, even though Isaac is not responsible except that he exists? One of the things I couldn't forgive my younger brother for was that the only thing was that he existed. And that Isaac exists and Ishmael is gone. It's understandable Abraham would have murderous thoughts toward Isaac, especially the Bible is so artfully written right after his argument with Abimelech, who might have rubbed it in a little bit too much. Let us pledge to be kind to our progeny. And so he hears it not as a command, but please, it seems irresistible, but maybe not. But he arises early in the morning, saddles his ass. First thing he saddles his ass and gets two lads, it says in Hebrew, are friends of friends. Lads like Isaac. Isaac is called a lad in this very brief chapter. And they go to Moriah. Isaac tells the lads, Abraham tells the lads, you stay here. I'll go with the lad up. We're going to prostrate ourselves. He's carrying a knife. Fire. Isaac is carrying the wood. Isaac asks one sentence in the whole story, Father, I see the wood and the fire, but where's the sacrifice? Isaac that won't say the word knife. And Abraham says, God will provide a sacrifice, my son. Could be true, could be the quiet Isaac, could be they both know that's not the truth. They get to the top of the mountain. Abraham ties up his son, raises a knife over him, and at this moment, Isaac owes his life to Abraham. At this moment, they connect as father and son. And so Abraham can hear, maybe from the two lads who they left at the foot of the mountain. Abraham, Abraham, do not lift your arm against the boy. Don't do anything to him. And these are two voices. And then Abraham sees a ram caught in the bush, maybe put there by the boys, and gets out his fury, killing the ram. And Isaac can leave. And again, this is such a honestly written story. Abraham goes back to the lads. Isaac does not go back with Abraham. They went up together, and Isaac runs away. But they have connected as father and son. They never see each other again while Abraham is alive. Abraham, being responsible, regardless of what's happening, sends his servant to find a wife for Isaac. And he tells his servant, place your hand under my thighs, and I will assure you that God will send a messenger before you to help you find a wife. Abraham is now telling this voice, this spirit, this power, he's telling the power what to do after that experience on the mountain, Mount Moriah, which means God will see with Isaac and the knife and the wood and the fire. And the servant does find a wife for Isaac. He goes and prays out loud at a well, may the maiden who takes care of my camels and waters them, may this be the one God has chosen. And Rebecca is there, and no fool sees this wealthy man with the camels. And the servant, Eliezer, might also be now not only telling God what to do, but even enjoying playing with the word God. They've gotten very familiar. And Rebecca feeds the camels. The servant takes her back. Rebecca sees Isaac, and Nephal in Hebrew falls off her camel. Because Isaac, it says in the Bible, is meditating or meandering in the fields, which men don't do in those days, even young men. Isaac must have been so traumatized by this binding experience with his father. But Rebecca has come from afar, and it's written, she takes Isaac into his mother's tent. Sarah had died after hearing about Abraham almost sacrificing Isaac. And Rebecca takes Isaac into his mother's tent. Very fittingly, Isaac needs so much comfort. And it says, for the first time in the Bible, Isaac, toward a man and woman, Isaac loves Rebecca, someone to touch and care for him. And at the very end of Abraham's life, he marries, has 6 more children, no problem. A woman named Keturah, which could have been Hagar. Keturah means spices. Hagar was from Egypt. 6 children, and as he's dying, he gives gifts to all 6 children. No more drama, no more God in his life. Gives gifts to his 6 sons. They go to the east. He gives his blessing and inheritance to Isaac. Ishmael also is gifted well. And then Abraham dies, and only then do his sons Isaac and Ishmael both of whom were almost killed by him. Then they come together. Ishmael, the father of the Arabs, Muslims, Isaac, the father of Jews and Christians, and they come together and bury Abraham. Abraham, who at the end of his life doesn't need to hear a voice or a spirit. He can do it alone, give gifts to his sons. So there's no drama, no struggle. Life is lovely. And even when Abraham dies, it says he's gathered to his people. So there's an afterlife for Jews as there is for Christians and Muslims. But there's no God, just gathered to his people. That voice that commanded him to almost sacrifice both sons, he wanted to be free of that. And this is the story of how Abram began spreading blessings that we can continue to all families on earth. Thank you for joining us.